leaders of the so-called liberation movements are currently in Johannesburg, that is South Africa, where they are conducting what they have actually termed the Liberation Movements Summit. Your liberation movements include political parties that claim to have actually fought for the liberation of Southern African countries. And I'm talking of your ZAPU, ZAPU falls under actual liberation movements, but it has been overridden by ZANU-PF. There is your ZANU-PF, your SWAPO, and it must be Flerimo, and there is actually your ANC. All these political parties that claim to have fought the war, they have formulated a group of political parties across Southern Africa called the Liberation Movements. They are gathered in Johannesburg, South Africa, where they have a summit, and the ulterior motive is to actually stay in power for those who are in power, and those who have been defeated is to be resuscitated. Greetings and welcome on your lovely channel, the Hlonipani Global News. If you are watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button, so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. So, one of the bad things about these so-called liberation movements is that all they are thinking about, all they are concerned about, is not the issues, political issues affecting the people of Southern Africa, but they are driven by their quest, their greed to stay in power, because they have actually tested what are the benefits of power. They are actually giving each other a lot of monies. And remember, these so-called liberation movements, they have invested on countries. That is why even though in Zimbabwe it is known that Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa came through a coup, Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa is rigging elections. It is known in Namibia that SWAPO rigged the elections assisted by Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa. It is also equally known in Mozambique that elections were rigged. A lot of Zimbabweans voted there to actually make sure that that political party in Mozambique, the liberation movement, wins the elections in spite of, they don't care about the number of people who died. They don't care especially about the welfare of the citizens of Southern Africa. All they care about is to continue in power. And it is understood that the leaders of those liberation movements have invested in each other's countries. That is, your ANC, you will discover it has investments in DRC, it has investments in Zimbabwe, it has investments in Mozambique. Equally so, your ZANU-PF would also have investments in South Africa and in all these countries. So, liberation movements, especially the so-called liberation movements, their associates are actually benefiting. And so they are convening in South Africa specifically for the reasons of staying in power, continually stay. They have even established an indoctrination school in Zimbabwe, and I can actually tell that this was influenced by Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa ZANU-PF regime, because they have got, even ANC have got also its school of ideology. For ZANU-PF, it is the Herbert Chitepo school of ideology. ANC also has its own school of ideology. The name can't come through. And now they want to come with a Southern African school of ideology. And narrated according to the interest of these liberation movements. So I think it is equally important also for opposition political parties, modern opposition political parties, opposition especially, to make sure that also they establish their own groupings in Southern Africa. But unfortunately, you would not see, maybe because of finances. Remember, these liberation movements, some of them, they are still in power. Some of them, they have lost power, but they may be having some members of parliament in their respective countries. So they are still benefiting in the revenue of the nation at large. They did not completely vanish from the political scene. That is why you would see this. But remember that when the liberation struggle was fought, it was not fought by only these political parties which are now portraying themselves as the messiahs of Southern Africa. For example, in Zimbabwe, ZIPRA fought a lot. By the way, it is said that the actual history says that ZIPRA is the one which liberated the country. But guess what? Because of the cunning nature of Robert Gabriel Mugabe and because of him being assisted by the British, then thinking that he was going to protect their property rights when it comes to issues of land. He ascended to power. And most of these Southern African liberation movements that eventually ascended to power, it is questionable their ascendancy to power. For example, in South Africa, there are real liberation movements which did not, unfortunately, were not favored by the then colonialists to actually take over from them. You would remember that in all countries across Southern Africa, the colonialists had influence on who eventually took over, and amongst the plethora of liberation movements that existed during that particular period. So, meeting in Joburg, they are trying, look at these people, they are very, very old. Nangakwa here was praying while he's, I don't know what exactly was transpiring, but I think people must be having a lot of fun. They're actually doing as he pleases when others are trying to have a serious meeting. I don't know what he was praying. Others are seemingly concentrating, and he is praying. I mean, his eyes appears to be closed, or maybe when someone said amen, he didn't hear. He just continued praying while others were listening. I don't know exactly what is happening, but it's a very, very funny picture that is coming from Joburg during, I mean, as their meeting, the meeting of the liberation, the organization continues in the city of Johannesburg. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. You can financially support this channel by pressing the subscribe plus button and be part of our members who are the heartbeat of this channel. You can equally do so by pressing the thanks button and send us stars. Okancube Umhlabane is signing off. Let